Hi everyone, welcome to Glitz and Glitter. I'm so glad you came to check out this video. Today I'm making a peekaboo cup that's also rustic and patinaed, and I'm using the tack-it method. So first right here, I'm just sanding this 20-ounce straight tumbler down with 220 grit sandpaper, and then I'm going to clean it with alcohol. I'm using the 99% alcohol because that's what I have. 91% is fine too. Most people use 91%. I just have 99%. So you'll want to choose a spray paint that's going to coincide with whichever glitter color that you have. I'm choosing this one because I'm going to use gold. Okay, once your spray paint is fully dry, we're ready to go ahead and add the tack-it glue. Now I use mine full strength right out of the bottle, and I put an even coat on the whole cup. Some people do water theirs down. Some do 50-50 water to glue. Some do 60-40, 70-30. Whatever works for you, do you. But I have good luck with just one full strength coat, and I don't seem to need a second coat on there. Now, I did use a small brush. I grabbed the wrong one, so I do recommend using a makeup brush or a larger brush. Sometimes a Mod Podge brush would even be better, so it wouldn't take as long as this took. So I'm going to speed this up for you so you don't have to suffer through how long this took me to get an even coat. Just make sure to get the bottom and all the edges around the bottom and the top. Sorry, and go through it and make sure it is even and you're not missing any spots. And then just let it dry fully, and you'll know when it's dry because it will be clear and you won't be able to see the glue anymore. And then you will be ready to go ahead and add the glitter once that is completely dry. Okay, now that the glue is dry, it's ready to have the glitter added to it. Now I'm just using random glitters. I removed all my glitters, so I can't even give you names of them because I have them in jars around my room just to look good. So I don't know what the name of this one is. I generally buy all my glitters. I'm in Southwest Florida, and I buy them either at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, or Joann Fabrics. I rarely buy them online, and if I do, I get them on Amazon. But I'm going to start with the chunky glitter just because I want less of it on the cup. So I start with that one and I sprinkle that randomly around the cup. And then once that is applied, I'm going to go in with the fine glitter, and I'm going to make sure I cover the cup fully. And it's doing a good job. I won't need a second coat because of that spray paint underneath. So it's going to cover great. And then once you have the whole cup covered with whichever glitter you're using, you're going to take your finger and you're going to rub it down and lay that glitter so it's laying completely flat on the cup. And you'll want to scoop up your glitter before you do this and put it back in your jars so you can save the good stuff. Because once you have them combined together and you start rubbing it down with your finger, you'll probably want to put this glitter in a random jar that you're not going to use with the other glitter that it came out of, because it will be mixed together. So once you have it pressed down, it will be a beautiful flat coat. All the glitter will be flat, and your first coat of resin will come out nice and smooth, and you won't have to do much sanding to it at all. So just pick whatever color glitter you want. You can do gold, you could do silver, whatever color you want to make it yours. I'm picking gold because I want it to go with the outside of the patina cup, but you can do whatever you want. This step is completely up to you. You don't have to do this step since you didn't combine two different colors and you're not worried about them combining together when you add your resin coat. But the only reason I'm doing this step is because I have other tumblers on my turner right now, and I'm afraid that the glitter from this cup may fly off and get into one of the other projects. So I'm just going to seal this in with one coat of the Mod Podge, and you just use your brush and do even coats and get it all over the cup. It'll dry clear as well, just like the other glue did. So you just want to get it all sealed in. You can use anything else. You can use your clear spray paint if you want to. I just didn't feel like walking outside to do that. So I just grabbed Mod Podge. It dries pretty quickly. I think it dried in probably 30 minutes completely. And then you can go in with your first coat of resin without having to worry about the glitter getting on any other projects that you have going. But I do like this process. I use it a lot. I pretty much seal all my cups with Mod Podge. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the first coat of resin on here. I'm using this amazing clear cast. I got this one at Michael's, I think, just because I got it on sale. It's not my favorite one, but it's the one that I have today. So that's what I'm using. It works okay, but it's not a quick dry. And I do like the quick dries, but this one takes several more hours than the quick dry does. But it still comes out with a nice, shiny, clear coat. And it's a 1-to-1. And I mixed up um, 15 milliliters of this one, and I didn't use all of it. I probably used 10 to 12 milliliters because that glitter is laying flat and it's not going to take a whole lot of resin to cover that. So you just want to get a thin coat and get it started before we move on to the next step. And just, push it evenly throughout, get the bottom, don't forget the bottom, and then I go over it with the heat gun and pop any of the bubbles. And then I also go over it with a torch real quick to get any of the micro bubbles. And then let it spin the spun for probably 4 hours, maybe five. And then I let it sit overnight to get to the next step. And then we're going to be coating this with our first layer of the brown spray paint as soon as this is ready. All right, now that it's fully dry, I'm going to go ahead and add my first spray paint. It's the dark brown, and that'll be our first coat. All right, make sure your dark brown is fully dry, and then go ahead and go in with a lighter blue. This is the blue that I have, but any light blue would look good to make that patina look. All right, now that we have our two base coats of the spray paint on, they are fully dry. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the top of this tumbler. I just want to get off any resin that got onto the top. And I'm going to take this sandpaper black and go around the rim and get just a tiny bit of the silver showing through. That way, when we put the next layer of resin in, it will just kind of seal everything in and we won't have any problems in the future when it gets washed and water won't get behind anything. So just go ahead and take your sandpaper and get off all the way around that rim real nice and clean before we begin the next step. Now I'm going to take polycrylic, just a really, really tiny amount. And I'm using mica powders for this step. Mica powders in my finger, basically. So I'm mixing up 4 colors and I'm just going to kind of paint them on and around this cup in random spots. There's no rhyme or reason why I'm putting them where I'm putting them. I'm just kind of going a little bit at a time, seeing what kind of looks oldish. And I'm using copper, I'm using gold, I'm using brown, I'm also using black. And just use whichever colors you like and put as much on as you want to put on in this step. And you only need a tiny, tiny bit. I mean, I barely mixed any and I didn't even use half of what I mixed. So you know, stir up a little bit of what you want, go around the cup and kind of push it on with your finger in random spots like I'm doing here. And for the black, I just took a dry brush, like an old paintbrush, and I dabbed the brush on instead of using it with my finger just to kind of make it look dirty, I guess you can say, because you want this to look like a rustic cup. So instead of going on like the other three colors, I just wanted to do something a little bit different with the black color. And this will dry very quickly. Now, I did put it on a little bit thicker. You can use a brush too if you want to, and you'll get those kind of brush marks, which would look cool as well. I just didn't do that. It would probably even dry faster if you used a little brush for this. But I did use my finger, and I just threw it on the tumbler turner to help it dry a little bit quicker for those thicker spots of the mica paint and the polyacrylic. And then I was getting impatient towards the end. So I just took my finger and rubbed out a couple little spots that were a little bit thicker that weren't drying as quickly because I did want to move on to the next step. So once I did that, you're not going to see it anyway and you want it to look old. So I thought, why not? Rustic is rustic, right? So I just did that. So once I have that all on and it's completely dry, we're going to go in with the next step and we're going to expose some of that glitter, which is my favorite part of all. So make sure you have some acetone available because that's what we're going to need. Now, I let this sit, I think, probably more than 24 hours. Only because I had other things going on and I couldn't get to it right away. Now, I do recommend that you get to the next step before the 24 hours. Like once this is dry, I think I would, if I do this again, I would do it right away once this polyacrylic is dry. Just because that spray paint, the longer it sits there, the harder it gets and the more force you're going to have to use to get through the spray paint down to the glitter with the acetone. I mean, it wasn't hard, but it just took a lot more acetone than you probably needed if I had done it the same day. So go ahead and watch this step, and I'll be right back for the next one. Now that it's been sitting, like I said, more than 24 hours, it was completely dry. So I just used my acetone and a paper towel. And I just took that acetone and in random spots, I just rubbed right through until I got down to the glitter. And I just kind of, make your own design, make your own length or width of them that you want, and go around the cup and on the bottom of the cup. And I did go back and make sure that I got the rim done. And I did, I mean, I like the glitter. It's a peekaboo cup, so I wanted to make sure I got plenty of glitter showing through without doing too much, so just do however you want it to look. The more glitter you want, just expose more. And then you'll also see the brown spray paint coming through. So those edges is where you're seeing the brown spray paint. So if you want more brown showing, you just take a little bit more acetone to those edges. And if you want less brown showing, you just kind of go in a little more precise and go back down and to the blue. But it's pretty, I don't know, automatic when it comes off. It looked really good. I didn't go crazy trying to do anything special. And then once I got what I wanted, just make sure you go around the cup, make sure there's no empty spots that you want to be done. And then before you are finished with this, you're going to want to go back in with a clean rag or paper towel. I think I used a rag that has no lint, a no lint towel. And I went very carefully back over the glittered areas only with the acetone because I wanted those to be super clean before I put resin on there. I didn't want any kind of glaze from the spray paint I was rubbing off to stay on top of that glitter area. So before you put that resin on, just make sure you go through and wipe down just those areas with alcohol would work too. I think I use a little bit of both alcohol and the acetone. So once that was done, you're going to want to let it sit and dry, which it'll dry really quickly, obviously, and then you will be ready to mix up another layer of resin and put that on. I mixed up about 15 milliliters again of the resin, 1 to 1, 7.5 of A and 7.5 of B. And then I probably used maybe 10 or 12 again. And I just used leftovers and I make these tiny little magnets that I give away to other people for whatever. So if you have leftover, that's what I do with it. And I just put a generous coat on just to get a nice thick coat. And then I'm just going to go over it with the heat gun and the torch, just like I always do, and get out as many bubbles as I can and micro bubbles that you can't see. And then I'm going to let it spin. Again, this is not the quick dry. So I let it spin for approximately 5 hours, sometimes overnight, depending on how late I'm doing this. And then we are going to go in and sand it down after this. Once it's completely cured, at least 24 hours, go ahead and go in with your sandpaper and go around the whole cup and smooth it down the best that you possibly can, just so you don't have to do too many layers of resin. This one's not too bad. It's pretty good because we did the tack-it method with the glitter. So it really did stay pretty smooth. I didn't have to go crazy with the sandpaper. And now at this point, if you're going to put a decal on it, I would do it at this step. I chose not to put a decal on it just because I didn't know what to put on this one. So if you have any great ideas I can add, I would love to hear them. I went ahead and washed this with soap and water and some alcohol, and I rechecked it, and I did find a couple tiny spots that I wanted to resand. But then I used, again, I washed it again after I sanded it to get any lint off of there. So I use a lint-free towel now. I've learned my lesson that paper towels do leave lint, and then you have to do this all over again after the resin dries. So do use a lint-free towel, or even coffee filters, I learned works as well, and get it nice and clean for your last layer of resin. This is going to be the last coat of resin. I did 5 milliliters of A and 5 milliliters of B, and I mixed it for 5 minutes, scraping the sides all the time, making sure that is mixed very, very well and thorough. And then I'm putting it on this tumbler, and you're just going to want to let it spin until it's fully cured. And I will show you the final result. I love it. I hope you do too. And thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel so I can put out some more videos and tutorials for you all to watch.